Good morning, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today to attend the event Solving Real-World Water Challenges Through Empowering Student Innovation. Can everyone hear me okay? Awesome. We're thrilled to have you all join and explore how various sectors can better support and collaborate to empower youth to build more innovative water solutions. We're especially grateful to have our young leaders here who are really the driving force beyond this dialogue. This session is co-organized by Prime Students, HESI Student Action Group, and UNESCO HESI-SALC, and we recognize that achieving the SDGs depends on unleashing youth potential. Water challenges from pollution to water scarcity demand your creativity, your energy, and your diverse perspectives. Today's conversation builds on the call to action for higher education, government institutions, and the private sector to better embed sustainability competencies, foster meaningful youth collaboration, and build more pathways for green careers. We are building upon Prime's recent work with advancing youth entrepreneurship at the ECOSOC and HESI-SAG's recent efforts on the youth-led advancement of sustainability competency frameworks at the Global Sustainable Development Congress last month. Today, we're taking a closer look at water because it's a common thread through all the SDGs, from equity to health to biodiversity and climate. Before we begin, I have a few housekeeping notes. We'll be having a Q&A session after each of the two panels, and we will be running about 15 minutes behind, so please feel free to understand if you have other commitments. And as this is a hybrid event, online participants are welcome to add questions in the chat that we'll address during the Q&A session based on time constraints. And if you'd like to ask a question during the Q&A session, please feel free to tap one of the microphones in the room and it'll pop up when it's your time to speak. We're honored to begin with an introductory keynote from Ms. Rosenlily Liu. As Head of Partnerships and Agenda Setting at the UNESCO HESI-SALC, Ms. Rosenlily Liu has dedicated her career to bridging divides, from building consensus among stakeholders to transform higher education, to growing South-to-South cooperation to improve access and quality learning. Prior to this role, she was a donor, a policymaker, an innovator, and a scholar with hands-on experience in over 40 countries on themes including youth empowerment, innovation, education, climate action, and equity for deserving groups, standardization and regulations, and partnerships. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Ms. Rosenlily Liu.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. A very warm welcome again. And thank you so much for the invitations from UN Global Compact, a very great partner of UNESCO yourself for a very long time. We're very honored to actually be here again and co-host this event. And also huge congratulations on the HESI Student Action Group that have been absolutely amazing, not just at advocacy level, but really truly unleashing the actions and showing the world what young people can do through concrete actions. So maybe let me start with saying that youth and higher education have been and must continue being the driving force of transformation to improve not only the SDGs that we review every year, but all of them all together. And that's because we have more than 254 million brilliant minds, arms, and hands at higher education level, ready to roll and really act on our global challenges. Yet, before we start on the very specific roles and use in higher education, and given that today we're talking about the intersection of SDG 6 on clean water and sanitation, SDG 8 on decent work and economic growth, and SDG 14 on life underwater, it's important that we see where we stand with each one of them at the moment. Is in the very most recent SDG report, which is published by the UN just earlier this week, the following have been stated. SDG 6. While steady progress expanded access to drinking water, sanitation, and hygiene services between 2015 and 24, billions remain underserved. In 2024, 2.2 billion people lack safely managed drinking water, 3.4 billion without safely managed sanitation, and 1.7 billion lack basic hygiene services at home. In schools, 646 million students remain without basic hygiene services, requiring a fourfold increase in programs to meet the 2030 program. Water systems are under strain from pollution, water stress, and weak governance, and only 56% of domestic wastewater is safely treated. Water strengths remain critical in several regions. Freshwater, thank you. Freshwater ecosystem are declining and transboundary cooperation limited. At the current rate, the world will not achieve sustainable water management until at least 2049. SDG 14. Despite growing conservation efforts, only 8.4% of the ocean is classified as marine protected area, far short of the target of 30% by 2030. Just 46% of marine key biodiversity areas are under protection. Ocean warming and acidification continue, overfishing and illegal practices persist, and support for small-scale fishery remain insufficient. The third UN Ocean Conference, which was just held this year in Nice in June 2025, offered renewed momentum. Countries adopted a bold political declaration and made over 800 voluntary commitments focusing on marine protection, pollution control, high seas governance, and support for vulnerable nations. A key milestone was the progress toward the agreement on marine biological diversity of areas beyond national jurisdiction, with 19 new ratifications, bringing the total to 50 states, just 10 member states short of 60 needed for the agreement to enter into force. Okay, now let's move into SDG 6 on employment, which in relation to water and ocean. The exact title mentioned in the SDG report is that youth face persistent challenges in labor market despite record low unemployment. And what does this mean? Well, the global unemployment has already fallen to a really low record of 5% in 2024, improved from 6% in 2015. If you look at youth employment in particular, well, improved from 12.9% in 2024, it still remains triple the adult unemployment rate of 3.7%. And in 2024, 1 of 5 young people aged 15 to 24 globally were not in education, not in employment, and not in training. And that leaves 259 million youth without opportunities to build skills or gain work experience. And this rate has stayed persistently high, with a super low 0.9% point decrease since 2015. And young women face the greatest barriers, are twice as likely to be in this not in education, not in employment, and not in training state as young men. And this number, for example, in Central and Southern Asia, 41.9% of young women are in this state, comparing with 11.5% of young men. So let's say specifically for blue economy that include both ocean and water. The current situation is that global formal ocean economy can support 133 million jobs. And that, if we add small-scale fishing industry, that can actually bring us to 260 million job opportunities. Yet, youth are often concentrated in low-skill roles in fishery, tourism, and any cultural activities in relation to ocean, with very limited protections or pathways for advancement. And same thing with water. There are 3.2 billion jobs, which accounts for about 75% of the global workforce that can be dependent on water access and services, particularly in agriculture, manufacturing, and sanitation. However, same thing. Youth continue to face challenges in accessing decent jobs in those fields due to skill mismatch, limited vocational and digital training, and poor access to finance. And this is especially challenging for young women and those who are in rural and marginalized areas. And youth participation in those jobs are, in a way, they are, if they're lucky, if they are able to secure something, it's very likely to be low skilled, and there's very low participatory rate in decision-making or in management roles. And we need to know that in order to realize those promises of SDG 6, of SDG 8, and SDG 14, there's this high demand that we need to invest in skills development. We need to invest in formalization of jobs, and we need the support for youth-led entrepreneurship in sustainable water and ocean-based economies. But if we look at the numbers, I'm sure maybe everyone here has been feeling this a little depression, where's our hope? Where are we going to move forward to? I think one positive message out of it is that as much as we're not doing so great on paper in those numbers, what we can see is that there's huge potential for improvement only if we start with unleashing the potentials of young people. And higher education can significantly support with it because it is at the core of driving diversified partnership models to support young people, such as through South-South and triangular cooperation, through this intergenerational collaboration that we've been talking about for many, many years, and through public and private partnership. And I'll give one very short, concrete example. So back in 2023, at COP28, UNESCO ESOC and the UN Office for South-South Cooperation have started the UN South-South University Cooperation Network, which we have decided that let's see what we can do within the framework of Global South and seeing what kind of capacity young people would actually have with the support of intergenerational approach in creating actual prototypes. So not something that's very much in the ideation phase, we're just black and white on paper, but actually into community impact and into the industry materialization. So we started the greening with the Science, Technology, and Innovation Camp. Well, let's say we use the term greening because greening in a way also includes blue in it that involves water. So let's say within 4 months of boot camp, plus 3 months of very concrete prototyping mentorship period, we got 22 viable solutions in total in the form of workable prototypes. And 7 out of those 22 solutions actually involve the transformative use of water and contributing to the ecosystem where water is an essential challenge to be addressed. For example, in Lebanon, while there are some hardware systems require high level of community engagement and integration to ensure successful delivery, the rainwater harvesting from American University of Beirut combines the sustainable water collection system with community training, making it a socially driven solution that's directed from higher education institutions and really bringing the impact to the community. In UAE, where through American University of Sharjah, they have created this electro-solar cloud conditioner tower where there's a whole rooftop system that uses different kind of sensors to localize the rainfalls and responding to the urban heat and water stress. And then in Thailand, a multidisciplinary international team committed to understanding what kind of plastic-free Bangkok campaign can propose to the internal use of metal and reusable bottles to improve the drinking conditions inside CM campus. And last but not the least, in Colombia, there are students from Mechanical Engineering Department in collaboration with students from Department of Faculty of Science in Chemistry in particular, where they designed this very particular chemical material to address the residual water treatment so that they can actually have this promising reduction in pollutant level for water itself. And then we want to thank all stakeholders who have been working with young people in various scopes to move us closer collectively towards achievement of SDG 6, 8, and 14. And moving forward, we want to make sure that, as highlighted in the SDG report, the following will need your further support. So for SDG 6, it requires mobilizing comprehensive financing mechanisms, leveraging innovative technology, strengthening institutional capacity, and fostering multi-stakeholder partnership and integrating water management across all sectors and governance levels. And when it comes to SDG 8, which calls for sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full productive employment, and decent work for all, it requires urgent attention to young people's participation in the overall ecosystem of blue economy. And those sectors can offer not only significant job creation potential, but also breaking down those structural barriers to allow not only opportunity for young people to join the formal workforce, but also to create a flexible pathway through entrepreneurship. And for SDG 14, we want to make sure that ocean recovery can be possible through sustainable ocean stewardship that combines strong fishery management, ecosystem-based approaches, but at the same time, putting young people not just going out as fishermen, but at the level of decision-making and understanding what it means by blue finance. What are the ambitions and strategic, fields and decision-making in the conservation that they can be involved to support with the scale up, to support with the cooperation, and to support with coming up the actual innovations at all levels of society. and to the 1.2 billion young people aged in between 15 and 24, especially those 254 million hosted by higher education, please trust yourself. You can make the changes you want to see. You are doing so by taking one step at a time, and you will be able to achieve more by working together among yourself, and more importantly, with other stakeholders. The future is ours together, and we should be all in, contributing whatever we can to make a better future for all, while at the same time leaving no one behind. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lily. Thank you so much for really powerfully framing our conversation and also really emphasizing the opportunity higher education has, and that we really need to keep holding on to that hope. I'd like to now introduce Vishwas Kakar, who is the Prime Students Task Force member, to introduce our next keynote speaker.
Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Lorenzo Gentile, who joins us today from the Food and Agriculture Organization of United Nations. Lorenzo's journey within FAO has been marked by diverse roles, from driving marketing for resource mobilization and donor relations to strengthening South-South and triangular cooperation partnership that advances global collaboration. Throughout his career, Lorenzo has demonstrated a strong commitment to ensure that development is both youth-led and inclusive, always supporting the broader 2030 agenda. Today, Lorenzo serves as the Youth Program Lead within FAO's Office and Youth Women. In this pivotal role, he leads FAO's flagship initiative to engage and empower young people, the World Food Forum Global Youth Action Initiative, positioning youth at the heart of transforming agri-food system worldwide. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Lorenzo Gentile, a passionate advocate for youth engagement and sustainable development on the global stage.
Thank you so much, Vishwas, for that introduction. First of all, allow me to send the regards of Mr. Kazuki Kitaoka, the director of the Office of Youth and Women, as he was supposed to be delivering this speech today, but unfortunately he's unable to be here with us, so I will be delivering his speech on his behalf. So first of all, good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're joining from. It is a great pleasure to be here representing the Office of Youth and Women of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations in this session dedicated to exploring how youth can really actively contribute to solving real-world water challenges. And this topic is really closely aligned with the work of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, or FAO in short, which plays really a central role in addressing the interlinkages between water resources and agri-food systems. And as many of you might know, FAO also hosts the Global Framework on Water Scarcity in Agriculture, or WASAG, which is a key platform that fosters collaboration and innovation, innovative solutions to address water scarcity in the context of agriculture and food security. And the future of agri-food systems cannot be shaped without addressing really water challenges, and just as critically, without the full engagement of the solution, as highlighted in the status of Youth in Agri-Food Systems 2025, which is a publication that most comprehensive evidence-based analysis of youth in agri-food systems to date. Engaging youth agri-food systems is not only necessary, it is a strategic investment. In session, I started reflecting on the question guiding the panel discussion of how do we empower student water innovation. And empowerment, especially youth empowerment, is a very complex and multi-layered concept on which I have been working on for many years. And it begins by creating spaces where people can voice their priorities. And it also continues when we truly listen and take meaningful action in response to these. And this is exactly what we're trying to achieve through our World Food Forum Global Youth Action Initiative, which is a platform that we created back in 2021 to support youth engagement and empowerment in agri-food systems, tapping into the potential and innovative spark of youth. And water is a key area of focus for the work that we do at the World Food Forum Youth Initiative. In fact, last October, during the World Food Forum's flagship event, which was held, it is held each year in October at the headquarters of FAO in Rome, we hosted the Rome Water Dialogue as a space for intergenerational exchange and collaborative discussion on water and agri-food systems. Within this forum, the World Food Forum Youth Assembly, which is our structured platform for youth engagement in agri-food systems governance and policy making, presented the Youth Declaration on Water Scarcity in Agriculture. And this declaration represented a global call to action from young people, really urging the international community to recognize water as a vital resource for life, agri-food systems, and the future of our planet. So acknowledging the pressures of a rapidly changing world, youth advocated for sustainable water and land management to safeguard ecosystems and protect vulnerable communities. And they also emphasized the importance of inclusive governance, capacity development, and intergenerational collaboration. And through the declaration, they called on FAO members and WASAC partners to invest in youth-led solutions, ensure meaningful youth participation, and foster cross-sectoral partnerships to address water scarcity in agriculture. And building on youth priorities and recommendations that were identified by the Youth Assembly last year, the focus for this year, so for 2025 and beyond, will be addressing water scarcity in agriculture through innovation, capacity development, and knowledge exchange. And in response to this call, the World Food Forum Global Youth Action Initiative is acting upon the identified priorities. Just as an example, we're currently developing a youth leadership program on water action, a program that will support the leadership and technical skills of young FAO professionals on water-related management issues. And these skills will be developed through technical masterclasses, mentorship, and networking opportunities. And participants will also gain hands-on experience developing on FAO proposals to be shared with senior management, and each participant will also engage on a global scale at selected conferences throughout 2026. We also could not but acknowledge and act upon the request for equitable access to financial and technical resources to scale up youth innovations and pilot projects in sustainable agriculture water management. And in this specific regard, the work of the Youth Innovation Lab of the World Food Forum equips young innovators and entrepreneurs with the knowledge, networks, and resources to develop and scale high-impact solutions. The Transformative Research Challenge that is part of this Innovation Lab it acts as our global competition for young researchers, featuring an annual award focused on water. And this year, the spotlight is on integrated water resource management, aiming to empower young innovators to develop scalable solutions that tackle water scarcity while promoting environmental sustainability, social equity, and economic resilience. And through our annual Startup Innovation Awards, which is another competition that we run as part of the Innovation Lab, we have also established a dedicated prize on water security designed to identify and scale youth-led startups that are advancing innovative technologies and practices for sustainable water management. And beyond competitions, our commitments to amplifying youth priorities continues to be both medium and long-term, and building on last year's Youth Declaration on Water Scarcity in Agriculture, consultations continue to be ongoing. In 2025, through the Youth Assembly, young people are actively participating in capacity development sessions with FAO technical experts and engaging in a second round of consultations to shape updated recommendations. And these efforts really aim to elevate youth perspectives in the lead up to key global events, including the third WASAC International Forum, the 2026 UN Water Conference, and the 2027 World Water Forum. So this sustained engagement is a powerful reminder that empowering youth means not only listening to them, but working with them and creating frameworks that enable them to lead. So when we ask, how do we empower student water innovation? My response is simple: by taking their priorities seriously, by fostering a multi-stakeholder ecosystem that champions their ideas, and by providing them the tools and platforms they need to create impact. Because youth are not just the leaders of tomorrow, of course, they are already leading today. So youth are already leading and sparking the change that we really need to transform our agri-food systems. And they're not only beneficiaries, it should not only be considered as beneficiaries of development, they're really creators of scalable, innovative solutions that are shaping a more sustainable future. So it is really imperative that we put them in the driver's seat and allow youth to have really room in these discussion spaces. So with that, I'll end my speech, and I thank you again for the kind invitation. I really look forward to today's dialogue on how we can and must empower student-driven water innovation, particularly how education can serve as a powerful catalyst for unlocking youth leadership in this critical space. So thank you again, and back over to the moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Lorenzo, for your insightful contributions and for highlighting the immense potential of youth as change makers within the global community. Your experience and dedication are truly inspiring for everyone in this forum. Thank you. Now I'd like to invite Iman to guide us into the next session. Over to you, Iman.
Thank you, Vishwas. Hi, everyone. I'm Iman Cumberbatch. I am a senior project manager at the PSC Institute for Sustainability Studies. I'm also a New York University grad student where I focus on technology, specifically around computer graphics and sustainability while doing equity-driven initiatives. Today, I'll be your moderator, and I'll be talking with institutional leadership panels. Today, we have joining us on a timely conversation around what's going on in terms of water. So specifically, this month alone, New York City has experienced a severe flood flashing, which once again highlighted the vulnerabilities in our urban infrastructure, deepened concerns about climate justice. At the same time, we continue to face biodiversity loss and environmental inequality in these specific neighborhoods in New York City. These challenges are deeply connected. Most importantly, they present real opportunities for student-driven leadership and institutional innovation. So our panel today brings together higher education, entrepreneurship, artificial intelligence, and also global water research to explore how academia can support students in solving these real-world problems that they've been talking about today, and also at the intersection of climate and community and innovation. So we're excited to have a group of distinguished speakers here today. Thank you for coming. And each of them brings such a unique perspective on how we could move from knowledge to action. So starting with our online panelist, Dr. Sarang Kao. He is a water and environmental scientist and specializing in coastal modeling and sediment transport dispersion analysis. He also holds a PhD from the University of Liverpool and works at HR Wallingford. Thank you for coming. His projects combine numerical simulation and physical modeling while also supporting sustainable marine and coastal engineering. He's also involved in UNGC SDG Innovation Accelerator for young professionals. So, Dr. Kao, your work supports global marine systems and coastal resilience. With this month alone, with New York City's flood flashing and rising sea levels globally, what strategies or innovation do you see as essential for students to understand when designing local solutions for water resilience and disaster preparedness?
Thank you. Iman, can you hear me? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So good morning, everyone. I'm Zoran. I'm happy to be part of this workshop. Apologize, but I can't be there in person because the distance between UK and US. So I finished my PhD in Liverpool. It's about CFD simulation, and currently I'm working in HR Wallingford. About like a research and commercial projects. So back to the question, I'm gonna share some like a strategy when I face to the water issue. So first of all, I suggest that always analyzing before planning, designing, or doing. So understand the root causes on this particular water issues. Every small difference may change in the whole story. So try to figure out the unique causes. For example, the flash flood and the rising sea level, this is a global issue, but the impact on cities like New York City is especially striking. So there must be something unique in those cities, right? So some like local conditions, extreme rainfall in this area, aging drainage system, low-lying area, etc. So we may consider to use the grass, right, to absorb the water from this old city. However, for the new city, we may think soak, store, or release the water. So what I mean is here is that the first step of the whole strategy is to analyze the scenario to consider the impact factors. After that, based on the causes you already figured out, thinking longer, so think long term. It's not just fixing the problem now. So we think long term, our products works long term. So when we know the reasons, we can start to integrate long-term technologies or skills like some renewable energy, suitable technology like a rainfall collection skill. So try to consider all possible pros and cons, like older city. Older city, we don't have like a fancy technology, advanced skills, but we have a historical data as our reference. We can put that in our model. But for the new city, it looks like we have nothing, but we can implement our possible long-term technology, like a solar panel on each house, wind turbine, food waste recycle system. So long-term means that everything can make our idea or product work longer. The third one is emphasize teamwork. So collaboration is essential. From my PhD, I just work alone most of the time, but when I working in the industry, I figure out like when I have some idea, it's better to talk to people. We need a brainstorm, we need advice, we need support, we need opposite voice as well. So all of them will help refine and strengthen our idea. For example, work with locals, the communities will complement our legal gaps, which normally for like a student or the starting the junior engineering or scientist, they don't touch this part. So teamwork is the best way to break through our challenges or even our confuse. So after that, so finally, design your solution. So landing your ideas, write down your idea with all feedbacks from your stakeholders to generate a scope baseline. So we will face a lot of changes when you're doing executing. So keep good records, help others to track all the designs and learn from it for the future projects maybe. So this is also a form of sustainability, I think. Yeah, that's what I want to say. Thank you again. I can't hear you.
We can hear you guys.
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just saying, thank you so much, Dr. Cao. You raised some great points about how we should consider the factors of the land long term, understanding the pros and cons, and just being analytical when you're trying to understand different water challenges. And collaboration is definitely important, and an interdisciplinary approach as well. So now we'll go into the next speaker. We have Aaron Boucher. He is joining us here in person today. Thank you. He is the Director of AI Innovations at Cornell University. AM leads initiatives focused on AI strategy, ethical automation, and Gen AI infrastructure. He also co-chairs a consortium of 80 member organizations exploring the future of work and AI innovation. Thank you for coming. AM, with your work at the intersection of artificial intelligence and systems design, what role should universities play in ensuring that students not only gain that technical skills, but also gain the understanding of the social implications of AI and the tools that they're actually using?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. There's a lot of focus about the benefits of AI, and we're gonna all feel them. It's a big change, but there is a huge opportunity. But without being intentional about how do you harvest these benefits, it's not going to always be the best outcome. And I'll give you an example. So AI is very big in healthcare, and AI is probably better than the physician to ask the patient questions about why they're there. So it will make sense that AI doesn't get tired, and it will really make sense to have AI really have these questions and talk to the patients. But what do you do then after you successfully deploy this? Does that mean that the physician just sees more patients? Is that the goal? Maybe in some places that's the goal, is you need to see more patients. But if your goal is to improve the health care, maybe the physician should do something else other than just by default seeing more patients. And also, what are you missing if this physician is not talking to the patient anymore? Now, they have less time with the patient. So you deployed AI, but you downgraded the health benefits. And this applies for everything. So even if one of you is going to be working at OpenAI or Anthropic developing AI models, think about it that AI is globally accessible, which is fantastic. There is no barrier. You could be sitting anywhere in the world and you could have access to the most advanced AI models. That's a huge win. However, all of these models are built here in the US, most of them anyway. I mean, we have some in China too. But what is the impact of everybody using those for education, for communication? The risk of homogenization is real. There are a lot of studies that shows that when people are using ChatGPT, they start to speak more American. So even if they are, so there is a study out of Cornell, and where there are students that international students from India, and when they were asked to write an essay and they were using ChatGPT to help them write the essay, they started to describe food like biryani as like a blend of spices instead of really talking about the ingredients that go in if they were writing that essay without ChatGPT. But I want to touch base also about talking about the energy usage of AI, and that touches back about our main topic here about water usage. Every time you talk to ChatGPT, it's burning energy. And the scaling laws with AI today is not about pre-training the model. It's not about building a better model. It's really making it think longer. And that just means it's going to consume more energy. So every time you ask a question, if you're using a thinking model, even if the question is just what's the weather today and can be answered really quickly, you will see that AI is burning a lot of tokens, what we call them tokens, when you're seeing it thinking to answer simple questions. And sometimes that's just too much energy for a very simple question. If you're using AI to accelerate scientific research, you want it to think for a long time, because hopefully you're building something impactful with it. So it's definitely a double-edged sword. And I want to touch back to what Lily said about youth employment. I think that I'm going to bring some bad news and some good news. But I'll start with the bad news first, is the challenge is going to be bigger. AI is mainly designed to do tasks that junior people do in corporations. So if you go to any place, the tasks that AI is automating are these that otherwise would have been gone to the youth. So and then when you start your careers anywhere, you want to find that apprenticeship, and you want to find that mentor that teaches you how to do your job better and how you become an expert. And if AI is doing that grunt work and those entry-level jobs, then how do you get to move from a junior to an expert? And AI helped us do a lot of different things, but you have to be an expert because AI makes a lot of mistakes. And mainly our jobs are to manage AI do the tasks, but you have to be the expert to manage AI. If you're not the expert, then you're not bringing a lot to the table. So I think that's a really true challenge. However, the good news is that AI does accelerate learning. If you want to be an expert at something, you could benefit from AI teaching you about a lot of different things. Going back to, I think we were talking about innovation and rapid prototyping and the events. It's never been better to build a hackathon or a workshop or a boot camp, because now you have all the AI tools to help you prototype so rapidly and so quickly. So it's very easy to bring your ideas to life. So if you always were hesitant about joining these like really intense boot camps or hackathons, it's a lot easier now to go because you have all these AI agents and AI tools to help you quickly and rapidly prototype and really have something in 24 hours or 48 hours that's working, completely working. It's a little bit more than a prototype now. You could build the whole thing. So there are the challenges and the benefits of AI in everything we do. And I think I'm going to just wrap up by saying that the science acceleration with AI is going to be exploding, especially as we build agents that help AI do scientific research. And I think the opportunities have never been easier to really push the limits and think big. So far today, we're thinking about like very small things that we do usually, and we want AI to do the same things. But I think there is a huge opportunity that we haven't tapped is about completely rethinking how we do things and really leveraging the intelligence of the models. Thanks.
Thank you so much. You definitely raised some great points about how to be intentional with AI, and we're always so excited to see how it grows because it's something that we can't stop now. It's constantly growing. And Lily, you also brought a great point about where's our hope, kind of seeing how we could use the technology experts and also those who don't know technology backgrounds to kind of connect with AI overall and accelerate their learning together. So going back to our speakers, we also have our third speaker of the day, Dr. Mustafa Anali. Thank you for joining us today. He is the director of M&T Bank Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship at the Quinnipiac University. And Dr. Uli is bringing intensive experience in innovation investment and also technology, and his leadership spans in academia, biotech, engineering, and global business development. So Dr. Anali, many students have strong ideas, but they lack the pathway of mentorship and bring those ideas to scale. What do you believe is the most effective way of academia institutions in supporting those students in turning?
Just 1 second, they can't hear you.
Oh, no? Just speak up a little bit. Okay. Sorry. So Dr. Analui, many students have strong ideas but lack the pathway or mentorship to bring those ideas to scale. What do you believe are the most effective ways in academic institutions can kind of support these students in turning their environmental ideas or their transformative ideas into sustainable ventures with entrepreneurship and long-term community projects?
Thank you very much for having me here. This is my first time attending a PRIME event, and I have collaborated with UN on water-related investment before, but I'm delighted to be here. I think the question that you're asking is a very complicated question, and I know that we have limited time here. But in my experience, we deal with student innovators and entrepreneurs on a daily basis. In order to have a successful idea to be implemented, I would call it from concept to impact. And I'm very careful with choosing the word impact, not necessarily ROI, return on investment, because not everything is intended to create cash flow and net profit for the organization. There are a few components that are needed for that success. The first element, you've got to have a new idea. Now, that's the innovation part of it that I already mentioned. Then the second part is who is waiting for it? What is the market? What problem are you going to solve with it? There are a ton of new ideas that nobody is waiting for. When I received my first patent as a young assistant professor, I was so excited to have a patent. And my assumption was I sit back and everybody will line up to license my patent. Guess what? Nobody showed up. It was a brilliant idea. Patent office agreed with me, but the market wasn't there. The technology was not suitable for the market and the financial cost of what I was suggesting. So that's the second piece, that you got a great idea, who is waiting for it, what's the market for it. The third piece is who are the people involved in development of this idea. And the last one is execution. You can have the most brilliant idea, but if you do not execute properly, it's not going to go anywhere. So back to your question, the third element that I mentioned, people and the students are part of that mix, is it's the most critical element that we have. And I say that from my own personal experience. I have created multiple companies. I have invested in a number of companies. Most of them were not successful. Now, we're not successful is the other word for failure. We don't call it failure because I never created anything assuming that it's going to fail, but it happens. And the question is, what lessons did we learn and how do we move forward? Regarding student entrepreneurship, that's most likely that the first time they're approaching that innovative idea to create the impact. Therefore, they need to surround themselves with right mentors and team players, with knowing that statistically speaking, the first ideas will fail very quickly. And I will use the word failure very carefully. In our business, even as investors, we consider that as a learning lesson. I was mentioning to my colleague, one of the things that you never find in my CV is I was involved in a business failure which lost $800 million in one project. I was working for Pfizer. Pfizer headquarters, by the way, was across the street until recently. It was a phase 3 clinical trial. It was not my project. I was one of many. I'm not taking all the credit for that failure. But that was one of the most expensive lessons, not only for that company, for the scientists, students, innovators, that this didn't work for this reason. A very expensive lesson. So back to the student scenario again, mentorship, having the right team around themselves, and be open to learn from others' failure. Those are the best lessons. What you learn from your failure, you never forget, but that's expensive. Learning from other failures, that's the cheapest education that you can have. Now, back to the topic of water, one of the projects that I did with the United Nations was drinking water for developing countries based on a technology that actually came from Cornell. It was a nanotechnology, micro-nano filtration for those. And it was a combination of testing this idea both in Mexico and India, which was very well received. Technology was there, demand was there, but execution was not as good as what we hoped to do that. So the economic impact was not as big as what we assumed to be, but the research and the focus continued beyond that point. I know that we have limited time and the meeting started late, so I keep my comments very brief. Thank you very much.
And I'm sure with that conversation, we go on and on, especially with technology ideas and the failures of it all, especially like with me in technology when I'm a student and trying to have an idea and then seeing that it doesn't actually work. How do you stop that? So that's something I'm sure that students will have questions about later on as well.
Absolutely.
So we have our last speaker today, and he will be joining us virtually. He is our final panelist, Ezekiel Bandana Rosa. He is a UN Young Leader for the SDGs and a founder of the CEO Pipe, an award-winning Brazilian startup that developed a patent solution to drastically reduce the water usage in toilets without flushing. He's also a serial entrepreneur since the age of 16.
He's also a One Young World Ambassador and a future leader selected at the Prince Albert II of Monaco Foundation. His work has received recognition from the UN, the governments of Brazil, UK, and more, and major in international startup and competitions. Ezekiel, your work shows the students and young professionals that do not need technology degrees to launch changing innovations. How can universities and mentors better support students in these non-traditional backgrounds that aren't technology in becoming confident and capable problem solvers for climate and water challenges? Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. It's a real pleasure to participate in this event, high-level event. And it's an honor to share a little bit about my experience and my thoughts here with you guys. I hope you can enjoy a little bit by my comments, okay? For me, that is a great and very personal question. You know, I didn't come from a place with water scarcity and I don't have a technical degree. I am from Brazil, south of Brazil, and I have a degree in international business. But I have always been extremely curious and creative. As you said, I have been an entrepreneur since I was 16. And what shaped my journey wasn't like technical expertise, but was like a deep desire to solve real problems in a simple and very effective ways. The idea of my company PP came when I noticed something that is everyone else had normalized it, like flushing drinking water every time we urinate. That's why the name is PP. And I saw that it's a wasteful habit and urgent need of innovation, not a technical challenge actually, but a behavioral one. You know, toilets, just to share a little bit, toilets and urinals represent one of the largest sources of water waste in cities. In Mexico, for example, up to 40% of the domestic water consumption is just for toilets. São Paulo, it's 42% of the daily consumption. And this is anywhere basically. And we are flushing drinking water for basic hygiene. So that doesn't make any sense in a world that is facing a growing water crisis right now. PP is like a simple, just to explain, PP is a simple spray that can eliminate the odor, can change the color of urine, and allow people to stop flushing after urinating without wasting like 10 liters of water. It's a very concentrate solution that you need just 1 ml to not flush, but to treat the urine without compromising like hygiene in toilets. And we are saving thousands of liters of water every year. And this is being used in homes, industries, etc. And what I learned with all my experience is I do believe that universities and mentors can support students from non-traditional backgrounds by more validating their instincts and helping them to bring ideas to life and early on, you know, even before they feel ready. Because too often students believe they need to wait until they have the perfect degree, the right co-founder, or having all the answers for the project. But in my personal opinion, that mindset can kill innovation before it begins, actually. And what helped me a lot when I started was starting small and close to the user and being very relentless about improving my solution. And I need to say something that helped me a lot was kind of few people that told me like, this is different, this matters, keep going, because I was always like the guy talking about PE and events of startups, etc. So that kind of comments was really helpful in the beginning. And I really also believe that today, in today's world, we need to work a little bit more like a generalist than being a specialist sometimes. And especially when it comes to innovation, because just to say an specialist is someone that it's like with the deep expertise in a specific area, like chemistry, data science, or mechanical engineer, okay. And a generalist is, on the other hand, can connect dots across different disciplines. Like they not go as deep like in the topic, but they can understand enough across many to create like bridge, spot pattern, and also think a little bit holistically. So this can bring new ideas to the field. And I do believe that we need more young people that can think across disciplines, communicate with different stakeholders, and bridge the gap between problems and solution. Young people should feel free to explore, combine skills, and build a mindset that is acceptable, curious, and open, especially today where we have like AI and all the knowledge we have like in our hands right now. So basically, if I can learn everything like in 5 minutes, how can I use all these connections to make something that can help the world? You know, this is my personal thinking. And thinking about the role of universities is not just about to educate, but also to empower the students, you know, empower the students to ask better questions, to test their ideas, to learn by doing what I did. You know, like I just started to do it without knowing nothing about chemistry or whatever. And realize that you don't need to be like a real science to create an impact. You know, sometimes you just need to be the one who notice a problem and there to solve it. Basically, this is what I did and what I'm trying to do right now, of course. And yes, I do believe that the young people should be more generalistic in this field of knowledge to connect all the dots of creative ideas and solutions and technology that we have to make a better future. Thank you.
Yes, I agree. I feel like we need to definitely empower these students, especially from all across different interdisciplinary backgrounds. You definitely raised a great point about how it is all about the change in behavior, and I feel like when it comes to different technology innovation, it's all about the change in behavior and how it could assist our daily lives and kind of innovate our daily lives. But yes, also about thinking holistically. So before we close the panel, I just want to thank everyone for joining us, and I want to open the floor for Q&A, so we have more time for that for the sake of time. But I think this conversation has shown us how student-led innovation is already transforming the way that we tackle water, climate, and equity challenges through all different types of disciplines. And I want to note that we also have some students here from the Green Teams program who are working on a project around water, but they're all not around technology projects, so they may have also questions around that as well. But now I'd like to open the floor for a brief audience and Q&A session. We have the people who are on Zoom, but then also people in person. If you are on Zoom, please make sure that you raise your hand so that we can acknowledge you, and then the ones in the room too. Please make sure that you raise your hand, and we'll call on you. Mm-hmm.
You guys can go ahead. I have a question. Yeah, if you could just speak up. So, good morning, everyone. I am Jainpur from India. So, I had a question specifically towards the head of AI innovations. So, you talked about AI. So, my question is, now that AI is so dominant in every sectors and specifically the education sectors, how do we ensure that students do not only just absorb knowledge, but their voices are not lost? Since American system is, we run towards a very English mandated system. So how do we make sure that the cultural diversity is not lost and we take into account our own languages and the cultural diversity?
Yeah, I think that is an excellent question. AI in the classroom is one of the most interesting and topics that I'm invested in. And I think there is a lot of efforts for especially the companies who have good intentions that build the AI models to come to the classroom and say, here, we solved it for you. We solved education and AI for you. Here's the learning mode button that you can click. And they are trying to do some really good ideas. But if you take a walk in any institution, every classroom is different. Every faculty teaches differently. The topics are different. The techniques are different. So my strategy with AI in the classroom is to empower the faculty and the students to use AI however they want to use AI. And this empowerment will, for example, a negotiation class could really build a lot of AI agents that can simulate a lot of different situations. So you're really doing active learning. You're not just learning how to negotiate, you're actually doing a lot of negotiations. You could think about another class, for example, if you have a huge class, maybe 500 people, the same faculty might be teaching a class of 12 people and another class with 300 people. The experience is not the same. So in the 12 people class, this faculty have this one-on-one time with the students to know where they are. So how can you use AI to bring that experience of one-on-one? So we have a chatbot that basically will have a conversation with all of these students and really understand where they are at their understanding, so the faculty could adjust midway through the semester. And without AI, this is just not possible. You cannot just go and talk to everybody. But it's a polarizing topic. So for example, there's AI agents that do grading. And if this is a room full of instructors and faculty, and I say, who likes this agent, half of you will raise your hand, and half of you will say, I hate it. And that just tells me very quickly who's using grading as a feedback loop to understand where the students are, and who's using grading just because it's for grading. So there's no one size fits all. And finally, about culturally, that's really, really important. AI is always helping us write, and we all know that writing is thinking. The problem is AI thinks a lot faster than us, and it will always start to complete our thoughts for us. And it's just close enough that what we were trying to say, where we think, oh my goodness, this is exactly what I'm trying to say, but it's not true. There are a lot of studies that show that when students are given a topic to discuss and they're giving AI tools, all of them come up with the same idea. Where the group that were not given AI, all of them came up with a diverse set of ideas. And all the students who used the AI tools thought that these were their ideas. So it's really deceiving because you're probably thinking in the same lines, but these small differences of ideas will start to grow to a completely different thing. And if AI keeps nudging you in one path, you're all going to diverge into what AI by default thinks about what a good idea is. So you think about ideas, but it's also culturally, so it will make you think exactly like, the westernized culture. I'll just give you statistics. Facebook is built here. There are 580 users of Facebook in India. That's more than the population of the US. So what we build here, we need to think about, like when we build technology here, we need to think about different cultures, different backgrounds, and how do you bring them to take a part of the system is also tricky because you also want to respect privacy of all of these. So I hope that answers some of your questions.
Thank you. And we can take one more question from in the room, and then we'll have to go into our next session.
Question in the other room. Oh, okay.
So there's a follow-up question in the other room. Oh.
Do you want to ask your follow-up question? Janti? Yeah. Okay.
Okay. We can take you after, and then we'll be done.
Yeah, I think we'll ask it once we're in the room together.
Are you ready to share your follow-up question?
You want to ask it after, right? I'll ask it. Okay. So thank you so much for the clarification. But I just wanted to know that since AI collects our data, isn't it also a threat to students specifically, since they do use AI to complete their research papers or just to maybe alter it in a specific manner? Does that not threat our privacy?
I couldn't. Could you repeat the question?
Can you repeat the question, please?
My question is, since AI stores our data, isn't that a threat to our privacy? to our thoughts. Since we know cases where the ideas have been stolen and rewritten it in their own words, marking it as their work, kind of copyright thing. So isn't it a threat to everyone?
Is the AI data fair for everyone? Everyone? If I understood the question quickly, it's about like is it about the data that you're putting in the AI? And
Yes.
it's the training, like as you putting as a student data in the AI?
It's specifically whatever data that has been stored, is that
Exactly. Yes. So absolutely. So that's a great question. So this actually goes back to OpenAI being a research company and not a product company when they released ChatGPT at the beginning. So the reason they released ChatGPT was to improve the models. So it was just everything you put on ChatGPT is being used to train the model. It's not necessarily a bad thing because that's more human knowledge that goes to the model, but definitely has a huge privacy concern. Things have changed significantly since then. ChatGPT has offerings for enterprise and for others. So, but usually if you're using an AI system and you are not using it in an enterprise setting, the chances that your data is being used to train the model, there are obviously easy things to know that you could leak personal information to other users, and these things have happened. In the early days, from personal experience, when I was using AI for coding, a lot of times username and passwords, the AI will just give me random username and passwords from other users trying to type that into their code. So that's a real concern. But at the same time, if we are building AI to work for all cultures, you need to use that data from all cultures to put it back in the AI. So it is a privacy and improving the AI kind of trade-off. So for example, if we don't read any data from different cultures, then the AI will always be westernized, and that's not a great thing. But also privacy concerns. Usually you have controls. Sometimes you could turn on and off these privacy settings, but they're not very obvious. And a lot of times, especially if you're using a free version of something, you don't have that choice. So everything you put in these models, it's not automatically learning, but it's being aggregated and being taught for AI. And lastly, we talked about youth employment, but we didn't talk a lot about exploitation. So these AI models, a lot of the data is built in not so ethical way. There are a lot of data labelers and labor outside that is being used to teach AI and to improve our models, but these are definitely practices that we all need to be conscious about.
Thank you. And unfortunately, for the sake of time, that's all the questions that we have at the moment, but we do have another panel discussion, so there will be more opportunity to have questions. So now I'd like to pass off to our next moderator, who will be joining us virtually, Machine Bukhari, who will be joining us. She is a human rights advocate and a member of the Scottish Youth Parliament. Welcome, Machine.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah.
Machine, I believe you're muted.
Hello. Can everyone hear me? Yes, we can.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, we can
Yes,
hear
we
you
can
now.
hear you. Yeah. Hi, welcome. Do we have a keynote speaker first? I think.
Yes, Vishwash will be joining us to introduce you.
We'll be handing it over to Vishwas to introduce our keynote speaker, Garvita Gulhati.
Welcome back, guys. So I'm thrilled to welcome Garvita Gulati, a remarkable change maker, joining us today as our keynote speaker. Garvita is celebrated globally as Forbes 30 under 30 honoree, UN climate change leader, and a National Geographic Young Explorer. Recognizing her extraordinary leadership in water and conservation and youth advocacy. Known across India as the Water Girl, Garvita began her journey of impact at age 13 and went on to found Why Waste, which has become India's largest youth-led movement for water conservation. Through her initiative, she has inspired over 6 million people, worked with more than 500,000 restaurants, and has saved an impressive 10 million plus liter of water. Thanks to the campaign like hashtag glass half full and the widely used Why Waste app, which helps people cut their daily water footprint. Beyond these achievements, Garvita is a UN youth climate leader and a dedicated advocate for SDG 6, often collaborating with organizations such as UNICEF, Ashoka, and Facebook to empower more young people to create positive environmental change. She also co created the Sustainability Stories, a set of fables to inspire children to care for the planet, now being brought to life by UNICEF. Garvita is also a Wharton Fellow, and in addition to her environmental work, she is passionate about classical dance and calligraphy. Let's give a warm welcome to Garvita Gulati, a true global youth icon for water and climate action. Garvita, it's now stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Vishwas, for that very kind introduction. And thank you all so much for patiently waiting and listening to me this afternoon. I think for you all, it's evening for me. I'm joining in from India. Very, very excited and humbled to be here. Thank you to the entire UN Global Compact team for inviting me to be a part of this discussion. I've been listening in from the sidelines, and just the diversity in terms of everything that we've been discussing puts to faith what the world really looks like today. And I think that's where I'd love to start off with and perhaps share a little bit of what my journey has been like and why water has mattered so much as a resource to work towards, and how I really believe that it is the prime resource that perhaps centers everything that we want to do in climate. When I was about 15 years old, I learned about the water crisis that was happening in India and around the world. It was about a decade ago. I was in school, somewhere in between high school, if I remember correctly. And we had this wonderful environmental education teacher who would come and talk to us about problems that were happening in our ecosystem. And I distinctly remember till almost the age of 14 or even 15, in fact, we would think that, she's just there as a tick in the box activity, but very quickly realized that she was the only person doing it, and the depth of passion that she got all of that information to us with was really, really inspiring. One of the things that she told us was that 14 million liters of water gets wasted every year simply in the water that we leave behind in glasses at restaurants. So just that little bit amount of water that you end up leaving actually amounts to something so extremely large. And that was around the same time where I was observing water problems in communities around me. I was not directly faced by them immediately. However, Bangalore, the city that I live in India, was set to hit day zero, and Cape Town, in fact, in Africa, was set to be the first city to hit day zero in that same particular year. And just these thoughts around the importance of water getting wasted in such trivial ways, and watching people have to struggle to get access to it, knowing that the place where I have grown up is probably not going to have this resource anymore, had my cogs turning. And I realized that there is something that I really want to do about this, but I honestly didn't know where to start. And that's when I was given the advice that every small action and every small activity counts. And so I went ahead and decided to talk to restaurants and tell them about simple ways in which they can conserve water. So I started out by telling them that why don't you fill the glass only half instead of filling it full? That way you just take as much water as you need and you don't waste. Now, it was not easy for them to grasp and accept this immediately. Restaurants being a hospitality industry, we also had to find ways to work in tandem with them and find ways to come up that don't disturb their day to day, and at the same time realize that filling glasses full was actually part of policy, and that was what rated them. So conceptually, what it came to was the fact that we had to go in depth and understand how the business worked in order to create the impact that we wanted to. And over time, once we worked with almost perhaps 100 restaurants to understand the best way to tackle this issue, we came up with the glass half full campaign and started putting up small standees at the tables, educating both customers and waiters on why you should just take as much water as you need. And while the idea was small in terms of the actionable, the whole concept behind it was to get people to realize that they are consuming more than they actually need in not just that one aspect of their life, but in every aspect of their life. And that rippled into realizing that there is this very key manner in which each of us consumes water, and that is in the form of virtual water, which is the water that we don't directly see. So that's, for example, water that could have been made in manufacturing clothes, in manufacturing a car, etc., etc., right? And I think some of you in the room might know this fact, but we spend almost 3,000 liters of water manufacturing just a single pair of jeans. And that you can just completely not even realize how much your water footprint is amounting to in a single day. So conceptually, we decided, let's get these facts to people. And we got them to start calculating their water footprint through our app. We wanted to reach young people. We wrote a series of books to be able to tell them stories of change makers and empowering them to create impact. Throughout our experiences, thanks to the efforts of the team across the board, we've been able to prevent almost 17 million liters of water from being wasted, reached about 5 lakh restaurants, almost 6 lakh users who are calculating their water footprint, and thousands of young people who've been able to read the books. But I think beyond all of this, our biggest wins have lied in the fact that we took very, very simple ideas that we too were scared and shy to put out there and made them work. And I think that's sort of what I would love to leave everyone here with today. Every idea counts, and every idea can create a difference. Very often, as young people, we tend to feel overwhelmed that will we know enough to solve a problem, and will conceptually what we're trying to create be enough to see the impact that we really want to. And it does not take deep science to solve every single challenge that is out there. It does not take a lot of money also to solve every single problem that is out there. All it takes is conviction and just a little bit of faith in the simplest of ideas, and of course, resilience to go ahead and push behind the line and ensure that you're able to actually see that idea come to fruition. I think there have been an immense number of people who have been kind enough to push me every time that I wanted to give up in trying to solve problems. And it's very easy to want to give up because it's so hard to convince people to change the way that they think. And I think one of the biggest things that I think about constantly is uh, of course, we've come and tried to move certain things in the way that things are happening. However, when it comes to solving larger problems, it also means working with larger players in the ecosystem who are also contributing to these issues, right? And once you, of course, realize it's all of us who's a part of it, there's also a source. And the way to collaborate with that source, which could mean big businesses, policymakers, etc., is to go and sit in their minds and understand the way that they are thinking and work with them from that format to really see how can we then apply. So the way I think of it is every single job out there, right? Whether you're a lawyer, you're a teacher, you're a doctor, you're an engineer, you're a scientist, you're an investor, you can, in some way or the other, contribute to a better planet. And rather, I would say each and every one of us needs to contribute to a better planet, because today where we are is because of the actions of all of us. And it's fine because that's the best that we knew back then. But now that we know better, it is time that each of us in the work that we do tries to slowly implement these changes, because we do need to realize that we need to continue to live the way that we are, but just better for the planet. And I think that's where small ideas, small changes, little things make a big difference, right? You see a leak, you build the solution. You choose to take a bath with a bucket of water instead of a shower. If you are a lawyer, choose what's right for the planet. If you are an investor, invest in businesses that are better for our world. Every single person's action and activity counts when you know how to impact it better. And I think when it comes to water, water lies at the heart of every single thing that we do. It is at the crux of everything that we build. And if we don't make the effort to understand how this resource is actually, and I say this very often, right? If climate change is a shark, then water is its teeth. It's the first problem that you need to solve. Without water, we can't live. And I truly believe that each and every one of us has a relationship with water. And my goal and our team's goal has been to help each and every one of us fix that. Thank you all so much for taking the time to listen to me. And I hope that I have been able to share perhaps one or two things that have been useful, but very, very inspired by what all of you are trying to do today. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you.
Thank you, Gavita, for your inspiring keynote and for showing us the power of youth-led innovation in reimagining conservation. Your passion and practical solution light the way for young leaders everywhere. You are really inspiring, and it feels really good when I see someone representing India at a global stage. At this point, I'm pleased to pass the stage to Motion for the upcoming segment. The floor is yours, Motion. Thank you, guys.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our youth expert panel. My name is Mishaim, and I'm honored to be moderating this session. This discussion is particularly important in current times where we've witnessed just how fragile access to clean and safe water can be. In places like Gaza, where infrastructure has been decimated, millions face a daily struggle to find drinkable water. Climate change, conflict, and inequality are straining water systems worldwide, from droughts in East Africa to floods in South Asia. It's a stark reminder that water insecurity is not just an environmental issue, it's a humanitarian crisis. This panel brings together 4 inspiring youth leaders shaping water policy and practice across different regions. Each brings a unique expertise, whether it's UN advocacy, research, entrepreneurship, or grassroots mobilization. Let me introduce our first panelist, Muhammadir Zahid Zahnov, a youth advocate with the UN Youth Office, member of the Regional Youth Advisory Council of IOM, and founder and director of the Public Foundation in Olibka. Through the Olibka initiative, he leads research and community programs to improve water access for women, youth, and people with disabilities and returned migrants in southern Kyrgyzstan. As someone deeply involved in youth-driven water resilience in Kyrgyzstan, what innovative advocacy methods have you seen or created that help the youth transition from being token participants to genuine policy drivers in water governance? The floor is yours.
Thank you. Dear colleagues, thank you for the floor. I'm honored to speak with you today, not just as young leader from Central Asia, but as someone representing the voices of those often left out of global conversation. I'm come from the Kyrgyz Republic, a country of mountains, glaciers, and rivers that nourish not just our lands, but much the Central Asian region. Water for us in more than as a resource, it's life, it's heritage, and increasingly it is a challenge. Despite being a major upstream contributor alongside Tajikistan to the region's freshwater supply, many communities in our country still face water scarcity, limited schedules of water delivery, and poor quality of access. In some urban neighborhoods, even 20-25 families can go hours without stable water flow during dry seasons. But the issue runs deeper. Climate change is melting our glaciers. We see it with our own eyes, the Pamirs and Tianshine. The Aral Sea continue to degrade, and the toxic dust it leaves behind speeds up glaciers melt. Meanwhile, the Caspian Sea is receding, endangering biodiversity and economies. And the construction of new canal like Poshtepa in Afghanistan without regional coordination threatens water flow and cooperation across borders. This is not just an environmental crisis, it is governance crisis. And when we talk about governance, we cannot ignore who is and who is not. It's a table. Let's talk about youth. In Central Asia, youth is officially defined as ages 14 to 35, but in reality, those under 25, especially young women, are often dismissed as not ready, too emotional, or just learners. The seats reserved for youth are too often filled by people close to 35, while those trially need support and visibility. 18 to 24 years old are left in the waiting room of decision making. I'm also strongly support the idea of definite needs, especially those of local communities, through baseline research before drawing any conclusions. Yes, research is not cheap. In fact, sometimes it needs up costing more than the implementation phase of the project itself. But that's still better than inventing solutions on behalf of people and imposing help that they never asked for. This aligns with the principle of don't harm. Why am I saying this? Because in Central Asia, many donors and international organizations often arrive with ready-made solutions. They skip genuine needs assessment and as a result fail to meet indicators of or face a clear disconnect between expectations and reality. Let's be honest, many international actors still operate with a conscious or not with a wide saver mindset. They come into communities, not just in Central Asia but globally, conduct research based on their own perspectives, and despite their best efforts, often fail to account for the local context. The same applies for youth-focused projects also. Not only do conservative governments limit youth participation, but international projects also tend to fall into repetitive patterns, primarily focusing on sports, especially football, soccer. Football matches are organized at every opportunity. Small football fields built using donor funds. Of course, football is great, sport is great, but youth are interested in much more than just football. We also see endless marathons and runs being organized as physical activities equate to youth development. We must start with proper needs assessment, real impact being with listening, not assumption.
Thank you so much
And
for your contributions. Because we're running short of time, we'll move on to our next panelist. So our second panelist is Teddy Kotongo, President of the World Youth Parliament for Water, a global peace ambassador and founder of the Zambia Youth Parliament for Water. He is a passionate advocate for inclusive water and climate solutions with a strong focus on rights and participation of persons with disabilities. Through his leadership, Teddy champions youth-led action, peace building, and equity in water governance and climate resilience. Teddy, drawing from the Bombay Borehole Initiative or the UN-level #FillTheGlass advocacy work, what advice would you offer young activists for mobilizing communities and turning grassroots campaigns into global policy influence? The floor is yours.
All right, thank you very much. As mentioned, I'm Chifumbano Teddy Katongo. From Zambia. I always say it's the home of the famous Victoria Falls. Yeah, so it's one of the 7 wonders of the world. Yeah, so when I was 5, just a brief background, I grew up in a village, and we had serious troubles with water, and we used to move 7 to 8 kilometers just to fetch water. And I was very young. It almost affected my performance at school, and I saw some of my friends, they were not concentrating because we used to fetch water even at night. Sometimes we used to go up to 8 p.m., you know, those long distances. And because of that, I saw other girls were even taken advantage of because of the long distances. Others were raped, and others became an excuse, you know, juvenile delinquency, and they got pregnant early, and we had issues of early pregnancies, especially in villages. And I saw how water scarcity can affect communities at a larger extent if they are not dealt with, because one, it affected education, and the other thing also, it brought crime, because others were being attacked because of the long distances. So what happened is I moved on, and I created a group called the Water Advocates, and of which we started the group with the youth there in Mukuni village, and later on it grew today to what is known as the Zambia Youth Parliament for Water. So now, what I can advise the youth is, we are not leaders of tomorrow. We are leaders of today. And when you go into these rural areas, you realize even though the world has moved on, a lot of people are facing serious water challenges. And as the Zambia Youth Parliament for Water, we saw that youths in Africa, they were not interested into getting into water-related issues. What did we do? We started getting useful strategies. How can we make the issues of water more interesting? So we started using fume as a tool for advocacy. We go in communities, and that's what we do. We create a fume based on the challenge that that community is facing. Then later on, after some days, if it's edited, we go in the communities, we screen, and we stir up discussions. Because we thought as a parliament, we wouldn't want to be biased, because, sometimes they say youths are overzealous for nothing, because we love doing things on our own. But we also engage stakeholders when we hear from the communities, and we allow the communities to speak. And one thing that we emphasize as the Zambia Youth Parliament for Water and as the water movement is we are so inclusive. Because when you go in these rural areas, you find that persons with disabilities are the most affected when it comes to accessing water, when it comes to sanitation, when it comes to hygiene. So we have the project called the Green Game Changers, where we use sports as a tool for advocacy. We organize a tournament. When youths come, we advocate for these water issues and also to feed into the policies. And at a global level, as president of the World Youth Parliament for Water, I also advise that people who are representing us in different seats or capacities, they also have a touch with the communities. Because you find there will be someone advocating for policies in a community they have never been. So it's also good that we also get emotional attached with what we are doing. You also face it firsthand. And if there is an opportunity, you allow the community members, one of them, to attend such conferences. So our works, they are visible, they are online. We've done documentaries, we've done films, and also there is a magazine that we create on intervals. And I must say, this is not a project that is heavily funded, no. This is a project that I fund using my own money. It shows, we have a change that we want to see. And I think that has been already mentioned. And I think my advice to the youth is for the Wombwe Village campaign that we are doing in Zambia, it's a documentary that we are using because we find people have moved on with water issues. But like I said, in villages, people are digging just on the ground just to drink water, and that water is untreated. And it's sad because now no one is talking about it, because when people move in urban areas, they feel, oh, okay, life is okay with us. Yeah, so I feel as the Zambia Youth Parliament for Water, that's one thing that we are leveraging and at the global capacity.
Thank you so much for your sharing your inspiring journey and some critical advice as well. So now we move on to our next speaker, who is Mansi. Mansi is a marketing student at FIIB with an academic background in agriculture, passionate about sustainability, gender equality, and youth leadership. She serves as the regional leader for South and Central Asia under Prime. Her global engagements include the Spark Fellowship, where her work on hydroponic farming and water-efficient practices earned recognition. Mansi also co-heads the Girls Up Club, leading awareness and campaigns and community-based initiatives that empower women and advance gender equality. Mansi, considering the global nature of water challenges, how can local youth initiatives contribute to international sustainability goals? What kind of support is needed to bridge this local to global gap? The floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the warm introduction. It's an honor to be here today as the youth panelist. So what I believe is that youth is already doing great in the water challenges. Like if we take example of India in the Maharashtra, where like youth are have started many initiative. They are using the like water recycle, where they use the sink water and the sink water to recycle that. So and it save like 50 to 60 liter water per day per school. It's huge. And I believe that if youth have access of knowledge and also a great exposure of the invention, they can truly do more projects like that. Like in Kenya also, they have also started the one initiative with the solar energy, like where there is the no electricity in the rural areas or the slummy areas, and also there is a problem of the access of good water or the pure water. So what they have done is they have started the solar panel with where there is no electricity, so that people can access the clean water. So I think, but these steps are seem small because not everyone have the access, and also there is a less of awareness in developing countries. So for that, what we can do is we can provide them the mentorship. What I feel is that we can provide them mentorship, also provide them some seed funding, so that they can work on their projects. Like recently, I'm working in the hydroponic project system, where I have guided the students and also run very initiative in the farmers, so that they can use the farming but with the less water. Like hydroponic farming is used 90% less water than the traditional farming. So it is a great initiative, but there is some constraint to use this initiative, because not everyone has the access of the knowledge, and also not everyone have that funding. So as like PRME and that type of platform, we can encourage the students, the youth change makers, so that we can contribute to the SDG goals like clean water and the prevention. So I think we have to create the awareness and to provide them the platform. Like I connected with the PRM, so I get to know more about the water challenges. And like now I am working as a regional leader of South and Central Asia. So through this position, I am also inspiring other students. So we can create such platforms, so that young change makers can create their ideas to explore others. So I think we are running out of time. So that's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your input and sharing the importance of exposure of knowledge for young people as well, to for challenging it and making water solutions. Today, we're going to wrap up with our final speaker now. We're joined with Stella Murungi Mwangi. Stella is a environment and climate action member with All Africa Students Union. She currently serves as the project lead of a clean water initiative in her home country, Kenya, focused on increasing access to safe and affordable water. She's currently pursuing an MSc in environmental science, with her research centered on developing low-cost water filtration systems for undeserved communities. Stella, you have designed a WASH project in Naroko funded by USAID that uses water quality data to benefit local communities. What strategies did you use to convert your research findings into advocacy that actually reached decision makers and drove change?
All right, thank you so much for your question. So for context, the project is based in Nakuru, Kenya. It's a city at the heart of the Rift Valley, and it is located in an educational center. So for us to get the project to where it was about selling a lot of key points. And luckily, when it comes to Nakuru, there's a lot of existing data when it comes to water quality. So everyone in Kenya knows that Nakuru water is salty, and there's always the running joke about people from Nakuru having brown teeth. And what people don't know they're describing is a possible case of dental fluorosis. So when it comes to existing data with Nakuru water, it was easy to actually prove that there is an issue with water in Nakuru. And another key selling point we were able to note is that we already had half a solution, because in the Pistis Educational Center, there is a borehole with water. The only problem is that it was not safe for drinking. And with a USAID grant, that will give us the other part of the solution. So that was, we had to like write really good implementation strategies, good budget plans, and also monitoring and evaluation. And also the other part that was, we had to show how you're gonna scale up the project. Like, for example, Pistis is just one school in the whole, it's one school, and Nakuru is a really big area. And there are other schools who could use benchmarking from our project to make sure like other kids from other schools can access clean, safe drinking water. And also another point was that we had to show the extent in which the positive impact was going to be felt with the project. So yet again, PIST is also an educational, sorry, it's also an orphanage. So that means we have orphans that are boarding in the school. So with this project, it's not about just selling water to the community so that they have more access to the water. It's also also about getting a small profit that can support the kids at the school. So it's really a project that creates a ripple effect across the community of Rwanda, which is an informal settlement. So you have to think about the kids, the community itself, and the larger Nakuru area. So we were able to show this really well in the project plans and everything. And I think this was a really good way to bring the research and also be able to get the grant. And for this, I really want to thank the USAID team and also the Pistis team, who have really helped a lot with this project. So it has been about dreaming big for the Rwanda community, but also starting with the resources we have at the school.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your insightful contributions and some practical advice. Now we move on to a Q&A. I think if we have one question.
Okay, if anyone has questions, we can continue in the networking session afterwards, and we're going to move on and wrap up with the closing.
Yeah, so now I pass on to Simon to close the session. Thank you.
Thank you all, and good morning. My name is Simon Shelton. I'm from New Zealand, and I'm the Prime Global Students Regional Leader for Oceania. And in my home country, I too see the effects of water issues. Things like our glaciers are melting at an unprecedented rate. We're seeing the Pacific Islands inundated and populations having to migrate, and the same within New Zealand, where we're moving towns because they're affected by huge flooding and insurance issues. And 250-year events are happening at least every 5 years now. So I'd like to thank our keynote speakers, our expert panel members, and the moderators. And I don't have time to call out some specific anecdotes and pieces that I found really interesting, but the panels have been very diverse, and that's exactly what we wanted today. So thank you for your time. I know time's very precious, and for those that have traveled here especially. Your insights have been both intimidating, interesting, and also inspiring, which I think is the most important part for our youth, because those challenges that we face are very significant. The purpose of this event was for students to discuss and understand real-world water challenges and how, through education and student involvement, we can ignite innovation and empower future leaders to address these. And this is absolutely critical for our survival. I feel like we've achieved that, and I would like to thank everyone that has attended and contributed. Today, I was reflecting this morning on the purpose and the themes. In my view, I summarised them into two essential components for survival. One is education, and to pass on and to gain this knowledge for our future survival. And the second one is water. And when anyone's ever stuck in a desert or a very difficult situation, the only thing you need is water. And so I think they're very primal in their two components. So thank you all for attending.
Thank you. Now we're welcome to stay and network and have some discussion.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. All right.
Not quite on time.
Yeah.
No.
And I hope to see you one day in London.
Yeah. It's very difficult when you've got quite a number